Excuse me, sir, is this the Delta House?
Sure. Come on in.
They have cold beer and action on the game.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
It's time for the Degenerates Next Door.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Let's not beat around the bush. We know what you guys want to talk about. Daniel Jones signing with the Indianapolis Colts. That is the story that's got the sports world rocking and rolling, or not. My name is Jason Hammer. Rob Kendall, former elected official and tax-cutting machine right across from me. And Rob, all eyes are squarely on college basketball right now. With all due respect to the NBA, the NFL's offseason, opening day for baseball right around the corner, golf and racing and everything in between. This is March Madness. We are about a week away from the NCAA tournament. Now, I'm somebody that always views as Thursday as the first official day. I don't count Dayton as the NCAA tournament. Am I a horrible person for that?
No. The tournament starts when there's 64 teams.
Thank you. So we got conference tournaments, though, before then. And we talked about this last week. I love a good conference tournament. Something about it. And right now with these super conferences, as much as we all love the scrappy underdog, you know, the team that might have a 27-year-old balding senior that can hit 43-pointers and become America's darling in the NCAA tournament like that kid from Oakland did last year, these power conferences are strong. So let's bet on these conference tournaments. That's kind of what we do here on this program, the Degenerates Next Door. Now, I've got the major conference tournaments in front of me here, Rob. This is the challenge that I presented myself. Now, you tell me if you think I'm an idiot or if you think we got action here. The position that I put myself in was to bet on a conference tournament champion that was not one of the top two favorites listed right now at Bet River Sportsbook.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you're not taking the easy way out.
Right. So, for instance, in the SEC, right now, Auburn is the betting favorite, followed by Florida. Those are 1 and 2. I have eliminated them from the board. Same thing with all these major conferences here, okay? So let's start with the SEC. I'm on Alabama at plus 400. I believe they're number 3 on the board in the SEC. I think this is good value with Alabama, plus 400. We just saw them go on the road and beat Auburn this past weekend. They've also roughed up Kentucky this year. They've got dudes. They've got athletes. Now, I don't like Nate Oates. He looks like the kind of guy that would try to sell you the Metallic Pete in the Vacation movie, like a sleazy used car salesman. But Bama's got some dudes, and I think plus 400 is good action.
Yeah, obviously, as you said, they beat Auburn. They were the number 2 team in the nation for quite a while. Here's the thing, though, Hammer. The SEC is brutal.
Yes. This may be, and I know this is sacrilege because we live in Big Ten country, the greatest conference tournament field we've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the top 20, it's very top-heavy with the SEC. SEC is a basketball conference this year, not a football conference. So I like Bama at plus 400. Case could be made for Tennessee at plus 5, plus 6, but I'm going with the Tide here. All right, let's move to the Big Ten.
IU.
You can get value on the Hoosiers. There's no doubt. But I look at Illinois getting plus 700 odds. Ooh. Illinois has played some pretty good ball down the stretch. They went up to Michigan and just depantsed the Wolverines. Now, Michigan's kind of hit the skids a little bit here. They try to be Johnny Tough Guy up at East Lansing and get into it with Sparty after getting swept this year. But Illinois is starting to play some pretty good basketball, and you can get 7-1 on the Illini.
Yeah, and there's no dominant team in the Big Ten. Like, I guess Michigan State maybe is the quote-unquote best team in the Big Ten, but Maryland's right there with them. You got Michigan, even though they got beat pretty bad at Michigan State.
Wisconsin, sleepy good.
Yeah, but then they got beat by Penn State. They got smoked by Penn State. I mean, we joke about IU. Dude, if IU hit some shots for 3 or 4 games in a row, if Goody and what's the guy that's making all that money?
Trey Galloway.
Trey Galloway. If those guys got hot for a couple games, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Oh, and by the way, if they keep Ballo off the court, I'd like to point out. Can I point out something here real quick?
Please.
Yeah. Because I was texting you guys, and you have the proof that I did text you this. There was like 13 minutes to go in the game. They took Ballo out.
Indiana.
And from that point onward, IU was plus 17, other than for the brief period of time he was in the game. But from that point forward, he was out most of the remainder of the game. IU was like plus 17. He stinks.
I believe our mutual friend, the coach Dan Dockich, calls him, quote, the fat, lazy center.
Or the fat, lazy, rich center.
The fat, lazy, rich center, because he's making over $1 million in NIL money.
And I told my dad, I said, look, I don't know, I maybe watched 10 college basketball games this year that weren't IU, right? So I'm not Mr. Basketball.
You're Mr. Analytics, right? You look at the numbers when you're making your bets.
Right. And I'm not Johnny Wooden over here or Robert Montgomery Knight. I'm a guy that is watching this and going, this guy is slow. He's not very good. He misses a lot of shots. He can't hit free throws. Take him out. And Woodson took him out, and they smoked him. Just leave him out. Put Baco and Renew in. They're both tall enough. They put them together. It's sort of one tall guy.
Okay.
Leave them out.
All right. So we go from the Big Ten to the ACC. Again, ACC's been down this year. Hasn't been a great league. Duke is really good. They are the clear favorite to win the ACC.
North Carolina.
How about Clemson?
Oh.
Clemson at plus 550. Clemson is good. They are ranked in the top 20 this year. And their coach, I don't think gets enough props. Brad Brownell has been there for like 13 plus years. Brad Brownell from Evansville, Indiana, former assistant at the University of Indianapolis, cut his teeth coaching in Indiana before he worked his way up through the Horizon League and, Wright State and some of these places. He's been at Clemson for a while, and all he does is get these dudes in the tournament. So let me ask you this, Rob. Let's say the IU coaching search comes up a little short of the dream hire, right? Let's say that the guy from Drake says nope. Let's say that Chris Beard says nope, or the alumni says we're scared of Chris Beard. I honestly wouldn't be mad at Brad Brownell of Clemson, considering all the resources that Clemson go to the football program. I mean, he's working with the leftovers, right? Whatever that athletic department drops out of the football program's pockets, that's what he gets at Clemson, and he gets them in the tournament all the time.
Hammer. Woodson said he might not be going now.
Can you imagine the balls on that dude? Like, you were blown out at home, multiple games. Late game situations looked like Keystone Cops. Student sections were chanting, "Fire Woodson!" And he does what he's supposed to do, beats Ohio State at home. Well, maybe I shouldn't be leaving. Yeah, Can you imagine?
You're going to sneak in as like a 10 or an 11. You're IU. You're sneaking in. And I love that some of the Woodson apologists now, he inherited nothing. They had missed the tournament 5 years in a row, as though there's some poor singing orphans there at IU with no ability to quickly rectify a program. Like he made the tournament, whatever it was, 3 out of 5 years. We should give that man a Congressional Medal of Freedom.
Indiana spent the third most amount of money NIL payments this past year. And for that, they got Ballo. They gave $600,000 to Trey Galloway. They brought in, the kid from Illinois. And you're right. They had to play themselves off of the bubble. They're still technically on the bubble, but it looks like, unless they get their doors just completely blown off by Oregon, they're in. And now all of a sudden, Woodson, they're acting like it's the second coming of Bob Knight.
My old man said, because it was senior day, he goes, there's like 4 seniors on the end of the bench who I don't even know who they are. He said,
right.
I don't even, can you imagine a time not knowing who players were? Even the scrub guys on IU, you cheered for them, you knew who they were. That's what IU basketball's become.
If you live in a place where basketball is religion, and we live in Indiana, and it's been that way, you normally know all the dudes, whether it's Purdue, whether it's Indiana, you know the guys, right? And I'm sure it's the same if you live in Kentucky or if you live in Kansas, North Carolina, where basketball is religion. Now, if you go to school at Florida State, you might not know who the starting 5 are because they're not the football players, right? Even when the football team's ass, like they have been, it's a football school. But you're right. At places like Indiana, you used to know the entire roster. The guy that could never get in was probably a Mr. Basketball somewhere.
Yep.
And you're right. No idea who these people are. And last but not least here, let me go to the Big East and Big 12. Big East, Marquette at plus 500, and the Big 12, Iowa State at plus 550. Iowa State at plus 550, I think, is a steal, honestly, because I love the way these dudes play. I think they're well coached. They're good out of timeouts. They tend to win those close games. In a year where Kansas is down, I like Iowa State's chances at plus 550 in the Big 12. So those are my bets on conference tournaments without being a chalk chaser.
Good for you.
No number 1 or number 2 picks in my field right there.
But a lot of times the chalk doesn't even win.
That's the magic of the tournament, right? This is why we love this time of year.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to wait for some of these tournaments to start and you want action tonight, get ready, Bal. Here we go.
I want action tonight, satisfaction all night.
So tonight, little late night tip, Gonzaga taking on St. Mary's. Gonzaga, the lower ranked team here, but they are a 3.5-point favorite over St. Mary's. Over under is 137. Now, the game total for unders has cashed in 6 straight games between St. Mary's and Gonzaga, but also Gonzaga's last 8 games, the total's gone over 139. So I see those mixed signals right there, and I want no part of the total. I'm not staying up that late for a total. St. Mary's has won 3 in a row and covered the spread in 3 straight against Gonzaga. This is kind of the pendulum swinging a little bit. For so long, it was Gonzaga's tournament to lose, and St. Mary's was the scrappy underdog. They couldn't get over that hump. It was like Tom Brady in the AFC and Peyton Manning. Just couldn't quite get over the hump until they did. St. Mary's has also won 7 in a row and 9 of their last 10, and I'm getting St. Mary's with 3.5 tonight. I'm hitching my wagon. I want the points. I want St. Mary's. They knock out Gonzaga. That is my action tonight. All right, we will see what our professional handicapper, David Stephanoff, has. He is a college basketball betting machine. He is one of the handicappers at followneverfade.com. He's got free plays for us next on The Degenerates Next Door. Back on The Degenerates Next Door, I'm Jason Hammer, Rob Kendall right across from me. And again, Rob and I, not professional handicappers. We do our homework, we study it up, we get pissed off when we lose, but we're not professionals. David Stephanoff of followneverfade.com, he is a professional handicapper. And David, before we get your plays for tonight, we just did a little exercise here where I went down the major conference tournaments coming up, the big boys, and the assignment was I am going to pick a winner, but it can't be anybody that is the first or second seeded teams, right? It can't be the odds teams here. So I'm on Illinois in the Big Ten, plus 700.
Okay.
I'm on Clemson in the ACC because I do like Brad Brownell, plus 550. I'm on Marquette in the Big East at plus 500. I'm on Iowa State in the Big 12 at plus 550. And I'm on Roll Tide in the SEC at plus 400. What do you think?
I like your guys' little game you're playing. I like your Illinois pick. I got 2. I kind of like it. We discussed that in our little group chat we have earlier with one. You guys, I like UCLA, Big Ten. I know that not west of the Mississippi or whatever Cronin wants to say, they're not very good. But I think on neutral court, they're pretty good on neutral courts. I like them as a live dog to win the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten's wide open. I like your Illinois pick. If they're healthy, earlier in the year they were top 5 team in the country. Hammer. Everybody was talking about Illinois. Tennessee beat them at the buzzer. They took Tennessee to the buzzer. I love your Illinois pick. I really do. I like out west, man. San Diego State's playing Colorado State. I know San Diego State's probably the favorite to win that tournament, but I like Colorado State. I think whoever wins that game tomorrow night between San Diego State and Colorado State, they have the inside edge to win that conference. I know San Diego State's probably the favorite, small favorite over everybody, but I like Colorado State's playing really good. They just beat Boise. They got a good coach who's a hot name on the market. Colorado State. They're really good at home. I think they have a shot to win that conference if they upset San Diego State. I like them. That's the two I like. I love your Illinois pick, though. I really do. I like Illinois big time in the tournament because they're so deep. They got a good coach, and they've had a tough schedule. You got to go back to earlier in the year when these teams played before the conference, their strength and schedule, the other teams they played. Some of these teams played some great non-conference schedules. You look now like, man, they played some good teams. And Illinois is one of those teams, Hammer. I really do like them.
And one more thing here before we move on to your play for tonight. This SEC tournament is stacked, and I know we live here in Big Ten country, and it's sacrilege to say, but is this the most stacked conference tournament maybe we've ever seen anywhere?
That's what the talking heads want you to believe, and it looks like. I mean, you know, I think the Big Ten. You never know. Everybody talks about the Big Ten being, you know, always let down in the first couple of rounds. But I mean, it speaks for itself. The SEC's got some. I mean, Vanderbilt's one of the mid teams in that conference, and they'd beat a lot of teams. They've had a tough schedule, but I don't believe that. I think Auburn, Alabama stand out. Just let's get that out of the way. I think Auburn and Alabama stand up. The SEC, that tournament, I mean, they're saying Auburn can lose the first game of the tournament and still be number one seed, and I believe that. That's how deep that tournament is.
Right.
That's how deep that conference is.
And that's the thing
Great
we're talking
coaches,
about here, David, is how deep
coaches.
this field is. It's about how deep it is. Because I know the historians will say, man, I'm going to go back to the Big East when you had Chris Mullen and Patrick Ewing and, you know, Villanova. And that was really top heavy. But from top to bottom here, this SEC is loaded.
They're solid. Yeah, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I mean, they beat everybody on the top, and they've got to beat everybody on the bottom. You can't count nobody out really in that conference. You know, Texas A&M every year. They made it to this Final Eight last year, guys, and they got the same exact team, same exact coach they have in Wade Taylor the fourth. I mean, that team. Their SEC is you're they're locked and loaded. They're definitely the best team. Big 12, Big 10, you know, they've got a lot of question marks, but they're going to probably go down as the best conference in history, like people are saying. You're right.
All right, David, let's get into some individual games tonight. What are you looking at?
Okay, guys, last night we went to the Horizon League. I've seen 10 Robert Mowers. We call him Bobby Moe where we come from. Where my old lady graduated. She got her bachelor's from Bobby Moe. So I've seen a lot of Bobby Moe action, guys. I'm telling you guys, I was on Bobby Moe to win this conference before it started, and I'm on him again tonight. They started slow last night. Let me tell you one thing about Bobby Moe playing Youngstown State tonight. I like Bobby Moe in this spot. Bobby Moe's best two players. Second best player had 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes. Their best player had he fouled out with 5 minutes to go in the game last night, and they still pulled it out without their two best players playing great games. They're way better in Youngstown State, way better coach. Andy Toole will not be the coach of Robert Morris next year. He'll be a big time major coach next year. Robert Morris, I gave it out last night to my VIP at -2. It's up to 3.5 and 4 in some places, guys. I would lay 6. I'm telling you guys, this is the easiest game on the board, my easiest game of the week. I'll be there in person again like I was last night. We're taking Robert Morris. You can I'd take up to it's -3.5 right now on DraftKings. I took -2 last night, -2.5 again this morning. I'd lay the -3.5 you can get on DraftKings. I think Betty and GM had it up to -4.5 earlier. But I love Robert Morris, -3.5. They beat Youngstown State from the front and the back. It's easy win tonight. And I thank you, Rob. Thank you, Hammer, for having me every week. You can follow me on all platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I put a lot of free plays out. We win way more than we lose. My March Madness package is available. Message me directly. I've got a lot of signups for people all over the country who listen to this podcast, and I thank you very much for that. $200, you get every NBA pick and every college pick for the rest of the year, guys. You can't beat that. And I'm throwing in the first month of baseball for free. And as of this morning, we're 51-24 in college baseball. And I don't even follow college baseball that hard. That's where we're on fire. Anyways, though, thank you guys for following me on all platforms, and thank you, Rob. Thank you, Hammer, for everything you do. Have a great week, and good luck to you guys in March Madness picks. And don't forget to follow Never Fade.
All right, when we come back, Rob Kendall has broken down historical lines when it comes to March Madness. This is what Rob does. This is why he was an elected official. This is why he was a tax-cutting machine. He does the homework so you don't have to. We'll touch on that. I've got a degenerate special for you. We're going to get nuts. We're coming right back. We are the Degenerates Next Door. Back on the Degenerates Next Door, we got a degenerate special on the way. We're going to get nuts. But first, Rob, you were crunching some numbers last night. You were ignoring your young child. You were ignoring your beautiful wife. They needed you to be a father and a husband, and you had to tell them, I'm sorry, I'm crunching historical numbers from March Madness. Do I have this correct?
So I got in the YouTube rabbit hole, and I ended up in the 1987 National Championship game, the broadcast of it.
Jim Nantz, Billy Packer.
It was
Indiana and Syracuse, 1987.
Yeah, and I was watching this game, and first of all, the thing that stood out to me was how much better the basketball was. Like, these guys played defense. They actually ran something that resembled an offense. Like, it was like actual basketball that I'm watching. But two, I'm thinking to myself, and this is the mind of a gambler. Obviously I know how the game ends. I've seen it a million times. Smart hits the shot, whatever. But I'm like, about halfway through, IU was down 10 in the second half, and I'm like, or down 8, and I was like, I wonder what the spread was in this game.
Could you have live bet the Hoosiers probably getting 6 or 7? Because IU was a favorite in that game.
Yeah, and so I was like, I wonder what the actual spread in this game was. Because Syracuse had multiple dudes that were good in the NBA. Coleman, Cycli, not just
Sherman
played.
Douglas.
Yeah, not just played. They were good in the NBA. IU was a 4.5-point favorite in that game. And I saw that, I thought, how in the world could IU have been a 4.5-point favorite? My old man's like, that's because Bob Knight. I was like, but Syracuse on paper was so much.
And it's not like Jim Boeheim is just some dude they picked up off the street to coach Syracuse, right?
Like, I would have hammered that all day, every day in real time if somebody had said before the game, you're getting 4.5 points of Syracuse, and I'd have been right. So then it got me thinking, I wonder what some of these other spreads were in these national championship games and how close the line actually was to the spread. So, I went to 1991. Duke versus Kansas. Duke's the 2, Kansas is the 3. Duke's a 3-point favorite. Duke wins by 7.
Now, that's the Duke team that had just upset unbeaten UNLV in the Final Four here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, then the next year, for example, it's Michigan and Duke, the original Fab Five. Michigan was a 6 seed. Duke was a 1. Duke was a 5.5-point favorite. Duke wins by 20. That's the year IU had Duke beat in the first game in the Final Four.
Yes, and that was also the year correct me if I'm wrong, had Alan Henderson not been injured.
That's right.
Hoosiers win that thing going away. But let's go back to that game for just a second. Duke was a great team at that point, right?
Yeah.
And Michigan's Fab Five, I think the media probably pushed the line to where it was, because if you really want to piss off some basketball people, remind them that the Fab Five never won anything.
That's right.
And against Indiana and Purdue in the Big Ten, historically, both of those programs handed them their ass.
I don't think they won the Big Ten either the 2 years the Fab Five was together. I think IU won it both of those years. So think about that. They never won a national championship, never even won a Big Ten championship. So the largest spread, this list that I was Boyd's Bets is the name of the website I went to. The biggest spread I found, it goes back to 85, was 1985, where Villanova was an 8-point underdog against Georgetown.
I probably would have taken Georgetown to cover. I'm going to be honest with you.
And Villanova ends up obviously winning in the miracle, the miracle upset. There were a couple other bigger spreads.
You can't predict that Villanova is going to shoot 70% from the field or whatever it was that they shot, right? Patrick Ewing and Georgetown. I probably would have taken the Hoyas -8.
1996. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Here's the biggest spread. 1996, Kentucky was a 14-point favorite against Syracuse. Only won by 9. 14 in the title game.
Yeah. What was a 1990s title game? Was that was UNLV and Duke?
No line.
Really?
Pick 'em.
Really?
It was a pick 'em, and obviously UNLV ends up winning that game by 30.
Right. And say what you want about UNLV, there's some chatter, some scuttlebutt that they may or may not have thrown that game the next year.
Yeah. Kentucky, 7-point favorite in 97 against the 4-seeded Arizona. Arizona, of course, wins that game in overtime. Maryland was a 7.5-point favorite against IU in 02. Maryland did cover that one.
I would have taken Maryland. I would have, because Indiana was lightning in a bottle at that point.
Yeah. Duke was a 7-point favorite against Butler in 2010. Duke wins by 2.
I would have taken Butler because Butler had good players. They had like NBA dudes. Gordon Hayward was on that team. Shelvin Mack was on that team. They played in the league for a long time.
Then the adjustment the next year, Butler was, despite being an 8 seed, was only a 3-point underdog against Connecticut and then got beat by 12 the next year. Kansas, Kentucky in 12. Kentucky was 6.5-point favorite. Kentucky won by 8. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Villanova against Michigan. Villanova's a 7-point favorite, won by 17 against Michigan in 18. It's kind of a mixed bag on these big numbers, whether they cover or not. It's basically kind of 50-50.
And I wonder what the live bet would have been, what was it, a couple years ago when North Carolina was down by like 20 in the championship game, and they come back. Like, they come roaring back, and we've got a situation here. So somebody, I'm sure out in Vegas or wherever sports betting was legal at that point, you probably could have got North Carolina plus 17, plus 18, and toes are tapping.
Yeah, so anyway, I was watching that game, and I thought, man, that's the mind of the bettor. I wonder what the spread was in this game, and then it got me down this rabbit hole, and that was so fun to look at these numbers and see what the final score ended up actually being.
So those were championship games, Final Four games in March Madness. Rob, not all the games are that good, and that brings us to tonight's Degenerate Special.
It's time for Hammer's Degenerate Special.
We're going to the Big Sky, baby. Montana State against Northern Colorado.
Who?
Montana State. The Fighting Dutton family from the Yellowstone Ranch taking on Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado is a 5.5-point favorite, but Montana State has won each of the last 10 conference tournament games they've played. Montana State has scored 74-plus points in each of their last 6 games against non-ranked opponents at a neutral site. Tonight's game clicks all of those boxes right there. Give me the Duttons. Give me Rip. Give me Beth. Give me Old Man John. Give me Montana State catching 5.5 points. They know how to win these games. I'm going to stay up because I want the points, Rob.
You're hoping that Montana State takes the opponent to the train station.
That's it. Damn right I do. Now, if college basketball is wearing you out, maybe you're not a college basketball guy. Maybe you're into golf. Rob Kendall, let's get nuts.
All right, want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts!
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
And Let's Get Nuts almost cashed this past weekend.
Oh, we had Michael Kim on Sunday at the Arnold Palmer 40-1, and boy, we were in it. If Russell Henley hadn't eagled 16. Yeah, Russell Henley.
Who the hell is Russell Henley?
We're focusing on Morikawa the whole day, and then Russell Henley, no relation to Don Henley, comes out of nowhere. But what do you expect? 40-1. We got a whole day of entertainment. We were in it. We were in it at 40-1.
And this is the thing about the Let's Get Nuts. You just need to win one of these every 6 to 7 months, and it pays for the months going forward.
Absolutely. All right, so this week a little different. This is what I call a baby nuts because it's plus odds. But
please don't say those words ever, ever, ever on this program again. I don't want to hear the word baby nuts ever coming out of your mouth again.
It's plus 145, but the app I use has a 50% bonus, so that gets you over 2. So I'm going to do it as nuts because it's a special week in golf. It's the Players Championship. They'd always kind of envisioned the Players when it first came around in the early 80s, I believe, as being the 5th major. And it's every year it's held at the TPC at Sawgrass, which has, Hammer, one of the most legendary holes in the entire world, the 17th at the TPC at Sawgrass. It's the hardest easy hole in the world. It's a 137-yard par 3 surrounded by water. And for some reason, even though it's nothing more than a flip wedge for these pros, these guys make horrendous scores because it's surrounded by water, even though it's a pretty easy hole. So FanDuel, and I'm sure other betting sites have odds on this as well, right now whether there will be a hole-in-one at the 17th at the TPC at Sawgrass. And right now at FanDuel, the odds are plus 145. They do have an odds boost, which will, I think, get you over 2-1 for yes. I'm going to take yes. Here's why. The last 3 years, 22, 23, 24, there have been 5 holes in one. Five holes in one. At least one in each of the last 3 years. Now, you're not going to get one on Sunday because it's tucked tight right. So you got 3 days for a group of pros to hit a flip wedge into the cup. I think they can do it. I'm taking the plus odds on yes, hole-in-one, 17th TPC at Sawgrass.
All right. Want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
Lights out. Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
It was almost the greatest day in Let's Get Nuts history this past Sunday, as you were right there with the golf and the NASCAR picks that I put on Twitter, which I'll do that again this weekend as NASCAR moves to Las Vegas. I will put my picks on Twitter and retweet it from the Degenerates Next Door account, so follow me for that. I'll do that closer to race time. But I had 3 plays. They were all in the top 5 with like 40 laps to go. And then Kyle Larson, which we got, I believe, at plus 600, right around there, 3 wide, racing to the finish, didn't win it. So we were this close to the greatest day in Let's Get Nuts history this past weekend.
And once we get through the players this week, Hammer, it's on to the main event. The Masters is less than a month away.
All right. We are going to be back on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more about these big boy conference tournaments, gearing up for March Madness, and for Rob Kendall, for our professional handicapper, David Stephanoff, a follow never fade. I'm Jason Hammer. Good luck, everybody, and as always, may the odds be ever in your favor.